Hello, this is Living Loveward episode 5 or chapter 5, and this one is Love Never Fails. If you've read 1 Corinthians 13 or if you've ever been to a wedding, you probably have heard that line, love never fails, after such lines as love is patient, love is kind, love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, etc. And love never fails is probably the most difficult to unpack. When we're living loveward, we have to, somewhere in the recesses of our consciousness, we have to assume that every action that we take, every thought that we have, every prayer that we lift up, all things that we hold in our heart are going to go toward love, even if that can't be seen on the surface. And that's, well, it kind of connects to all the rest of the things that we talked about love being a mystery, that certainty kills relationships, that just all the different things. I can't even remember them right now, but all of them fall under this assumption that love never fails. And so everything that you do in love, no matter what it seems to look like on the surface, at some point will hit its mark. The word sin that is used and abused, I should say, in Christianity means to miss the mark. Love is the antidote for that. And so when we do something, even if we've made mistakes in the past, if we ever arrive to the consciousness of love, it has a way of transmuting those things. And this isn't to say that there's no responsibility for past wrongdoings, or that when someone has wronged us and we kind of are trying to move forward in our lives, that just because that person has decided that they are connected to love, or that you feel like you're connected to love, that there's no work that still needs to be done. I mean, it can mean that there are such a thing as being completely restored and renewed, but there's also grace for the journey, and love takes that into consideration. But back to love never fails. So I've been listening to and reading some stuff about Søren Kierkegaard, who is a philosopher and old school. And he said a lot of interesting things. And one of them that he said was to love God and to not have faith is to consider oneself. But to love God and to have faith is to consider God. And I did not understand what he meant at first. But then I just kept walking and thinking about relationships and love, and just kind of reflecting on that statement and kind of repeating it to myself. Loving God without faith is to consider oneself. Loving God with faith is to consider God. And then I needed to back it up so I could understand what that meant. And so I brought it into a temporal, earthly person-to-person relationship and said, okay, so let's say I love a person without faith. What would that mean? And so I thought about it, and I said, no, let's say this person tells me that they are going to do something. They promise me that they're going to accomplish something or do something for me. But if I don't have faith that they will, I will stay in my own awareness, my own understanding, and I'll just be like, yeah, I don't really trust this person. I love them, but I know they failed a lot. Or I love them and they're not dependable, or whatever the case may be. Or I love them, but I'm not trying to go into this mystery with them. And so I'll consider myself, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll resign them to the limits of my imagination. Whereas if I have faith in that person, and they tell me that they're going to do whatever it is they say they're going to do, and I consider them, then I will allow my faith in them and my love for them to actually change me and allow me to grow and expand and to be able to make room for whatever is going to be revealed throughout the course of that relationship. And even in those instances where I can't even see that we're headed in the direction that the relationship says it's going, my faith will continue to keep me engaged, and I will be considering that person and their transformation, or whatever the case may be, and my own. There'll be a mutuality there. And so when I thought about it that way, and then I thought about God and that statement that faith and love for God is to consider God, but loving God without faith is to consider myself. And I thought about, well, if I'm loving God and I have faith in God, and God has made certain promises according to the tradition that I subscribe to and to the teachings that I follow, then that means that no matter what it looks like on the surface, my faith will keep me moving forward, will keep me moving loveward, get it? Will keep me moving loveward no matter what, because that faith and that love together, I will know that the love of God never fails. And so I will continue, no matter what things look like, to go toward love, regardless of externalities, because God is also not limited by time. And so since God isn't limited by time, even if I don't see the fruit of what the promise is, it's still going that way, because that's what it means to live loveward. And if you look at many of the stories in the Bible, the promises were never received by the people, well, not never, but sometimes they weren't received by the person to whom God made the promise in the scriptures, but to their children or somewhere else along the line. If you think about the people who fought for freedom in this country, or in slavery, or any of the other narratives where people had a hope greater than their lifetime could witness, the fruit of that was probably somewhere in a future generation. But because they still lived loveward, they still had faith and love together, then the promise never failed, love never failed. And that's why I can have this video with you right now rather than being in shackles, is that progression towards love, and that faith of the people who came before me has continued to persist in me and will persist in my children, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so love never fails in that way. And so that is a part of living loveward, to accept that love never fails. And as a follower of the teacher Jesus, I look at the cross, and say, hey, it doesn't make sense earthly wise for him to have done anything that he did, and most especially to still believe when he's headed towards his own death. That is something that, I can understand logically that it may never happened. But by faith, I believe, and I allow it to transform my life, that even as one heads toward what might look like termination, it actually isn't in the infinitude of love, because love never fails. And how awesome is that? I can feel it in the recesses of my soul, and sometimes it raises up to my consciousness, where I'm walking in this awareness that love never fails, no matter what. And when I feel that, that's what I want for everybody. And sometimes I legit will be driving down the road or talking to people or whatever, and I'll feel this overwhelming feeling of certainty, to a lack of a better word, even though I said that that's not a part of the whole live and love equation. But the certainty that love never fails sometimes will just overwhelm me, and I'll be like, you know what, no matter what it looks like, no matter what happens, no matter what, I know that love never fails. And I don't know how I know love never fails. It's faith. But that's a part of living loveward. And so as we continue to navigate this journey of living loveward, I would offer you to use as a mantra for this day, love never fails. So if anything comes up in your life and you feel like, hey, this isn't going to work, or this is, whatever, thinking about the society that we live in, some of the challenges that we face right now, I offer you to consider just saying the words, I'm going to do that today. I'm going to keep saying love never fails. So whenever something comes up that challenges me in the realm of faith, I'm just going to keep saying love never fails, and see where it takes me. And I hope that it takes you somewhere. And if you feel like corresponding in some way and letting me know what the practice does, if you choose to engage in it, please do so. There's some more videos ahead. I'm going to invite you to subscribe. Don't think I've ever done that on YouTube or anything like that, but subscribe or follow me, or wherever it is whatever platform you find us on, whatever is appropriate for that platform. And let's continue this journey, because I'm very curious. And I think that's one of the next things I might talk about. Love is curious. So hopefully this speaks to you. God bless, and have a awesome experience.